there! My name's Juliana Lustenader, and today I'm going to teach you how to do the mattress stitch. The mattress stitch is a way of grafting two pieces of knitting together to create an invisible seam, like we have here on the back of this headband. To the untrained eye, it's pretty hard to tell where our seam is because with the mattress stitch we've made it as invisible as we can. But it's right here for those who know where to look. So today I'm going to teach you how to create that seam with this project that I need to graft the beginning and end together. What you're going to need to do a mattress stitch is your current project and any yarn that you have left over for that project. In my case, I'm going to use the long tails that I left in my cast on and my bind off. You're also going to need a darning needle and a pair of scissors to cut at the end. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so we have our project in front of us. I have my cast on edge and my bind off edge that I want to seam together to create as invisible as possible of a seam. Lucky for me, for this project, for the cast on, I knitted this direction in the round. I went all the way around in the headband and I came back this way. So my stockinette stitches line up really well. The mattress stitch looks best when you have all the stitches going the same direction. So here, I'll hold it up like this so you can see a little more closely. We have these V's going up, and we have these V's going up as well. Now, when I first cast it on my project, I happened to have left a ridiculously long tail, kind of on accident. You won't need quite this long of a tail or yarn for such a small circumference like I have, but you might for your larger project that you're grafting together. This tail will be far too small. I would recommend a quick trick to figure out how much yarn you need for your grafting would be to see the length or the circumference of what you're grafting and get about 5 times as much yarn ready to complete the grafting. So I like to wrap my yarn around a couple times. And that should be enough. It's just eyeballing it though. Lucky for me, I have an extra long tail, so I don't think we're going to run out of yarn. Our first step is to get our darning needle, thread our yarn through the darning needle. Then we need to line up our knitting so all the stitches that we're grafting together are aligned before we get started. Okay, so here I am. I've lined up my cast on edge with my bind off edge, and I found the first stitch of my cast on edge because my long tail is coming out of it. If you're using not a tail but your working yarn, some leftover yarn, you would need to take your darning needle and go through the middle of the first stitch of the first edge that you're going to graft together. But in my case, that's kind of already been done for me because the tail is coming out of my first stitch. Up here, I've identified the first stitch I want to go to on my bind off edge to graft these together. So, with my darning needle and my working yarn or my tail yarn, I'm going to go into the first stitch of the other edge that I'm grafting together, not the edge where my yarn is coming from, but the opposite one. And I'm putting my darning needle through that first stitch that I want to graft together. You know you have a full stitch when you have 2 strands on your darning needle, and you want to go through what looks like a V and go around both strands. Try not to cut through the middle of a stitch or split your yarn. Make sure you're going all the way around both strands. Then pull your darning needle through and pull your yarn through. And as you tighten, you're going to see that the stockinette is going to uncurl itself a little bit. And you'll see where your working yarn was coming out of the first stitch. We're going to go right back in there. Here, I want to make sure you can see it. We're going to go right back in there and pick up the next 2 strands to the left. This is going to be an upside down V. And we're going to pull our yarn through and tighten a little bit. Not too tight, because you want your tension to match the tension of your knitting. Right here is the stitch I just created with those two pulls of yarn. We came from here, we went through this one, we came down, and we went through this one. And that's what made this V. So we keep going in that pattern. Now that our yarn's coming from this lower edge, we need to go into the upper edge and into the next V to the left, which are these two strands. Pull our darning needle through, oops, and then pull the thread through. My thread fell off my darning needle. Next, we're going to do the same thing we did before, looking carefully at our knitting and finding where the next V is. This gets a little tough if your project, the edge wants to curl in. Just make sure you're going through the next V of your knitting rather than the cast on or cast off edge of your project. So pick up the two strands of the next V and pull your darning needle through and the subsequent yarn and tighten a little bit to adjust your gauge to match the gauge of your knitting or the tension. And you just keep repeating this process. Find the V, pull the thread through, find the upside down V, pull the thread through. Make sure to adjust your tension every couple of stitches so it remains even and matches the tension of the knitting in your project. You're going to continue this process all the way to the end of the edges that you are seaming together. Okay, I'm nearing the end of my headband circumference, so I'm pulling through the last couple of stitches here, finding the V, pulling through, and then seeing where we've ended up. You'll see, if you're doing the same project as me, the other end, and you'll see a little bit of a hole because we are knitting in the round for this project. If you are not knitting in the round for this project, you will just hit the end of your row and you'll be able to weave in your end, and that's that. In our case, I want to make sure I close up this hole well, so I'm going to see where my yarn was coming from. It went through this V last, so I'm going to put it through this one, even though we've seamed through this one technically already, just to close up that hole. Okay, I made it all the way around the headband that I'm making. I started here and I created this row of knitting all the way around. And you can kind of tell where it is because I haven't blocked this yet and my tension might be a little tight, but other than that, it's fairly invisible to the naked eye, especially the untrained one. I still need to weave in my ends, and I'm going to actually take the other end that I wasn't working with here and just create another V to cover up the hole I have left here. And again, just hiding the fact that this is not a knit row at all, but a seamed one. Pretty cool, huh? That's how you do the mattress stitch. If you are interested in making the project that I used as an example, you can find it in my Ravelry stores and my Lovecraft store and on PayHip if you search for Do the Twist Headband. It's a free pattern. I hope you enjoy it. I really liked designing it. I love making it. I've made not one, not two, but 3 of them in a week. I'm obsessed, and I'm going to be wearing them all the time. The Do the Twist Headband is available for free on Ravelry, Lovecrafts, and PayHip. Thank you so much for watching this video. Go ahead and give it a like if you enjoyed what you saw. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. And I hope to see you again. Happy knitting!